Hey everybody, good evening. It's Dr. Douglas James Cottrell with my good friend and co-host Les Hubert. We're here on the Soul Report Live. We're happy wherever you are in the world that you're joining us and allowing us to come into your living room, to your life. We are happy that you're here. Tonight we have another exciting show, and Les has a bunch of really hot topics that we're going to talk about. And don't forget to check in on the chat and put your questions up for us. We'd love to hear from you wherever you are in the world. We are expanding. We're getting emails and comments from people in Europe and South Africa, India. So keep those cards and letters coming in, as Jackie Gleason used to say, and do the modern way on the chat. Okay, welcome to the show, everybody. What's up? Who's on first? What's on second? Why's on third? How's that go? Good to see you.
Hi, Doug. Well, we're going to start off with, again, a spirituality. Before we previously mentioned the spiritual path and how people could embark upon it, but we've never discussed spirituality in children. How would you introduce spirituality to children, and when would you go about doing that? What's a good age?
First of all, listen to them. You don't need to introduce things to them. You need to stop telling them it's not happening. Okay? When a child comes up and says, Mommy, I can see all lights around you, they're looking at the human aura. And you say, Stop being silly. That's your imagination. That's not happening. You might as well have slapped them across the spiritual face, because then they go like, Mommy's always right. So what I'm seeing is my imagination. Forget it. And so when they see the lights around other people, oh, my imagination again, and they, self-incriminate. So you need to listen to them. And when they tell you things, you don't ask like, what? What is that? Show me. Put yourself in the position. You're sitting at a desk, the teacher comes up to you, and you have something, the teacher leans over and says, what is that? Well, it terrifies you. So I know I'm being over dramatic here, but I've seen it so many times. I was in Spain, and there was a little girl who I was pretty well known. This was in Granada, by the way, so big spiritual center. They had big groups of people there. I was very well known, and as a spiritual healer, as the doctor and the psychic guy and the prophet and a healer, whatever. So it was all around kind of like a curiosity, I guess. But a couple came over. They must have been in their mid to late 20s. Probably because Spain, they have children when they're a little older. They might have been in their early 30s. Little girl came over. She was 11 years old. I have interpretation. That was my air traffic controller friend who was volunteering to be my interpreter that day. And I see the little girl, and she's looking kind of. This is where this big reputation and persona is going on. I'm the mystical guy. And she came waltzing right up to me, and she kind of like looked at me like, I was ordinary. And I was, what's going on? I was a little curious. So I asked my interpreter, what's happening? What's going on here? And believe it or not, the little girl was seeing discarnate beings.
Mm.
She was seeing relatives.
Oh,
She
wow.
was seeing auras around people. She was telling people what was going to happen. Hmm. And she's 11 years old. So
Wow.
when the interpreter said to me, she's been to see the doctors. They've given her all kinds of drugs. They're about to put her in an institution. Oh
Oh,
my
boy.
God. True story now. So I said to my interpreter, I got the picture. I looked at her, and she came over, and the parents are there. I said, now you tell the parents what I'm saying to her. And I said, you know, I can see lights around people. That got her attention. And I can see the future, which everybody in the crowd knew. And I can, do healing prayers and bless people. And then I said, and when you have a dream about the future and it comes true, it's okay to tell mommy and daddy. And I said, I do this and I do that And she's nodding her head. And then I said, and you're doing the same things as I am, aren't you? And she nodded her head and smiled. And I said to her, the parent, to the interpreter, I said to her parents, you have a gifted spiritual being here. Your daughter is a holy person. She's doing all the things I'm able to do. And she's only 11. Well, they started to cry. The girl had a big smile on her face. And I looked at my interpreter and I said, and they were going to put this girl, this little child, in an institution because they thought she was seeing things. She was seeing lights. She was seeing orbs. She was seeing what we call ectoplasma, that white, milky substance that floats by, or an apparition. I almost wanted to ask her, hey, is Mother Mary talking to you? But by that time, the room was silent. Everybody was fixated on this little girl. And she's just standing there holding her chest in her clothes. And I said, you're just like me. You can do what I can do. And you're going to get better at it. And I turned to the interpreter, who's got a big smile on her face, because she can see the reaction of everybody in the room. And these were pretty, let me say, prominent people, business owners, shopping mall people, the regular shop owners, if you will, in this community of mystical seekers. And at that point, I said, don't you dare put this little girl into an institution. I didn't say that, I said into a place. I said, encourage her. She is going to be a very powerful spiritual being when she grows up. She's probably growing up now because that was years ago, in middle 80s or something like that. Now that occurrence has happened more than once. When my son came home one day, he was on the school bus, we were in the country, and my attention was over at the school bus as I saw him come over the hill, and I don't normally do that, and I was watching him, and he got off the bus, he came walking down the 500-foot driveway, and I said, so, what were you doing? And he said, oh, I was on the bus, and I was just changing the other kids' auras. He was looking
Wow.
at them and changing. So I went, this is the secret, my friends. I went, oh, that's interesting. How did you do that? Well, I just looked at them and they changed color. That's okay. And off he went into the house. So your reaction to children, I know this is a little off what Les was expecting me to say. Your reaction to the children is how you teach them. You open them up with, wow, that's nice. Even if you don't know it, can't see it, doesn't make sense. Don't be afraid. Because if you're afraid of, oh, you saw a ghost? Oh my God, get the Bible out, get the holy water out. You're going to terrify that little girl, that little boy, your child, and you're going to shut them down. And it's going to take a long time until they come and see me or a person like me who says, can you see what lights? Can you have a dream about the future? Can you feel your hands tingling when you love somebody? And on it goes. Do you get hunches? Do you have a feeling that something's going to happen, and then it happens? So the reaction is for you as the parent not to react, but to observe. And then your children will say things like, Mommy, I had a dream where there's going to be a big airplane crash. You go, really? Oh, that's nice. Okay, thank you for telling me. And then she'll say, by the way, Mommy, you know your sister Aunt Betty? Yeah, she's going to have a little baby. It's going to be a little boy. Okay, but we won't tell Aunt Betty because Aunt Betty doesn't want to have any children. Okay, we'll keep it our secret. And a couple of whatever weeks or months go by, and oh my God, Aunt Betty's pregnant and she's going to have a little baby. And Mommy's saying, well, my daughter told me so, like whatever. So if you listen to the children, they will develop and they will have the sixth sense, the ESP, that second sense, as some people call it. So what's the story? You, as the parent, are falling behind if your children is having, and they are more involved than us, by the way, and if they're younger, guess what? They're closer to the porthole where we came through and were born.
Hmm.
They're close to it. They're 4, 5, 6, 7 years from it. We're 25, 35, 45 years from it. So guess who has a better memory of the other side, heaven. The kids, they know, they can remember, and they can go back through the porthole. They can have out of body soul travel experiences because they're not locked up in the body until about age 7 or 8. And it's pretty hard
Oh,
to do
really?
that
Oh,
stuff.
wow. Interesting. Um, so okay, we know, a matter of fact, I had a friend of mine when her baby was very young. She said when she would change his diaper, he would look up into the corner. He was just an infant, and he would stare into the corner as if somebody was looking back. And I've heard this repeatedly from other clients of
Very
mine when their children were very young. So they're seeing discarnates naturally because they were never told they couldn't.
well, naturally, because they're seeing it for real.
Hmm.
That's grandma up in the corner,
Oh, all
or
right.
that's great grandma up in the corner. I'll
Okay.
tell you a story that relates. I was in India. It was really, really hot. And my friend Ramesh and I, who was my guide, my friend, we were in Bangalore, India. It was hot. And the mattresses were this thick, the kind of
Ugh.
2 inches you look at and you go, what did I get myself into? Oh my God. But after a while of staying there, it was like, whoa, it was so, you're hot and you're on a flat thing, your muscles relax. Okay, back to the point. Up in the corner, as I'm talking to him, we're talking about the fan. This is a 12-foot fan on the ceiling. We called it AC, air conditioning, Indian
Ooh.
style. We were at an ashram. We were going to visit it. We were being on a spiritual journey. So I saw this light up in the corner, and Ramesh looked up and he saw it too. It blinked off, then it came back on, and we both looked at it, and it blinked off and didn't come back. And he said, what was that? Being that we're close to Sathya Baba's Bangalore ashram, I said, oh, that was just somebody curious, wondering what we're up to. Fast forward, get home, and the massage lady comes, who's a good friend of my wife, and she's looking very meek, and she said, I don't know how to tell you this, but that was me. I go,
Huh? Oh,
it was
wow.
you? What are you talking about? And she says, well, I know that you could see me because you looked right at me. And I knew then that she was talking about the light blinking in the corner. And she said, I was so curious about how you were on the other side of the world. I was meditating and I just let my mind go. And I saw you. There was this great big thing going around the ceiling, and I could see you sitting on the bed in your underwear. I'm so sorry. And I'm thinking, hey, not so bad. I was in my underwear. So, and I said, well, she said, but the thing is, she said, she was up in the corner. She said, I saw you. And then I closed my
Wow.
eyes and I came back and I looked and you were still looking at me. And I went, yeah, that's okay. That's natural. So using that experience, this happens to everybody. Sometimes you'll see a blink like that, a light. That's
Hmm.
somebody visiting you. And when you look at them,
Oh.
power of your sight is like driving waves through them. It disperses them because they're so fragile.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now that's a good thing to understand when you don't want those other ones around that are a little on the shady side. You look at them, it does the same thing. It blasts them away. Just
Mm.
like you take a puff of smoke and you go, and the smoke dissipates. That's the same kind of I was going to say experience, but it's the same kind of energy that disperses spiritual things. So when you look at somebody, you're actually sending energy to them. I mean,
Ah.
call it whatever it is, but you're looking at them. If you see them, they just fade. They don't belong here. However, so children can see these things. They look up in the corner because if you were peeping in on your daughter and the granddaughter, where would you be? You'd be hiding up in the corner. You wouldn't be in their face.
Mm.
And
Right.
that's why
Right.
it's common. Now, I know there's people out there saying, "Yeah, I don't believe that." That's okay. But when it happens to you, don't disbelieve it. Say, in a curious way, who is that?
Mm.
And people who
Mm.
pass away, our friends, whatever, they come and visit us. So you might see a blink of light in front of you because they're coming to say goodbye. if it's an older person, they're visiting the whole family.
Oh,
That's
well.
very common where everybody will say, you've probably heard this before, Les, darndest thing. I woke up, it was 5:04 a.m. And there was Aunt Betty. And
Yeah.
she's,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then the next day or two, the family's getting around for the funeral, and they say, yeah, it's a funny thing, Aunt Betty was there on Tuesday morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning or something. You too? Me? That? Everybody? Oh my God, isn't that a coincidence? No, it's not. She was coming to say, adios, I'm out of here. I'm heading for the big house. God bless you. You're stuck. I'm free. Whatever she was saying, but she was being very loving and kind to say, bye. Makes
Uh,
sense. If you passed away, my friends, wouldn't you want to go to all the people that loved you and said, hey, look at me. You can
right.
see through me now.
Yeah.
You know all that extra weight I was trying to lose it? It worked out. I don't weigh Listen, if you got a story, my friends, hit us up in the chat. Let us know what your story is, and we'll get to it towards the back half of the show. In the chat, tell us: have you seen a light? Have you seen a blink? Have you heard somebody say goodbye? Have you had such a mystical experience?
Mm,
Anyway, Les, that's what happens when it's common, as you were about to say too. That's very common. People say, and commonality, is that not evidence?
right.
If
Right.
two or three or five or 10 or 20 people have the same thing of seeing a light in the corner, must be something to it. Hmm.
Yeah. When we were kids, my brother fooled around with a Ouija board, and we thought nothing of it. And when my mother spotted it, she's like, get that thing out of the house. My mother was very intuitive, but she never explained to my brother the dangers of using such a thing. And for years afterwards, we had poltergeistic activity in my first house. We had portals, and it got a little really weird towards after like about 15, 20 years. I mean, they became very pronounced and very, you could hear their voice, you could see them. I mean, I don't consider myself that psychic, but I could see people very clearly in my room. And so, how would you warn kids about? I mean, how would you let them know about the landscape of spirituality? Would you warn them about certain things like that, or would you? How would you guide them?
I am against anything where you're reaching out in the great beyond and you don't know what you're going to get in contact with.
Hmm.
Now, there are people who are in the different heavens. Every religion has different heavens. The Christian religion has three: heaven, hell, and purgatory. Other religions, like the Mormons, have five. And you go on and on. There's 108 in some, let me call them more traditional religions around the world.
Wow.
So the idea, think about this. Every religion has angels, they have divine beings, they have the not so angelic, the kind that are on the shady side. Then they have the kind that come from the basement. Every religion in the world, and by the way, my interpretation of religion is a process that you choose to get up that mountain, to get to that peak. And there's only one peak, and that's where God is. So it
Hmm.
doesn't matter whether you go up left, right, north, south, east, or west, as long as you get up there. And how you choose to take that path is what we call religion. And so every one of them talks about divine beings, angels, spirits, afterlife. The soul lives forever. So, okay, there are good souls, like, of course, you and I and all our audience. We're just absolutely wonderful, friendly, loving, and kind. But then there's the other kind out there that drive motorcycles, rob banks, do harm, narcissistic, schizophrenic, people with conditions, and they harm people. And so in the afterlife, as somebody once said to me, what's it like? I said, it's just like real life. You're going to go to the same neighborhood that you live in now over there. And
Oh,
the
wow.
neighborhood that in this neighborhood, the higher you go in your neighborhood, you go up, you sort of social climb, your spiritual climb to higher levels of consciousness, awareness,
Sure.
illumination.
Right.
That's the neighborhood you're going to go to over there.
Oh.
Okay. So somebody who's a brute, is an animal, is a monster, those terrible things, where are they going to go? Not that way. They're going to go down to the basement and they're going to be on there with all the other creepy crawly things until eventually, finally, they learn how to crawl up those cellar stairs and get up to the first floor. And that's their awakening. They repent, they whatever. But it takes a long time. We've all been there. We've all been animalistic in our nature. And our spirituality has said, well, we are violent beings, we're animals after all, but we choose not to be.
Oh, okay.
And that
That makes sense.
spirituality allows us to keep going higher and higher. And of course, you associate with the people around you. And the more spiritual the people are, the more spiritual you are, the more spiritual people you meet, the higher up you go because your consciousness is expanding. Okay,
Sure.
so that short lesson on how to get from here to there is to understand that when you're playing with Ouija board or pendulums or anything else where you're looking for outside guidance, you have to say a simple prayer of protection. And it goes simply as this: God Almighty, please protect me from any and all negative influences, regardless of source. I'm grateful, amen, thank you, hallelujah, whatever you say. And you say that. And that's like blowing away that smoke ring in front of you, that when that shady character shows up, they go away. That prayer is super strong. But if you're playing with it and you're giggly, and if you become a little intoxicated or a little high or you're inebriated, and guess what? Your aura shrinks, it goes
Right.
down. And the top of your head is a portal where these divine beings can influence you. That's why everybody in some religions wear hats.
Oh,
They wear things around their head, from headbands to yarmulke to fedoras to whatever. And women are veiled. It's a process to prevent those shadow characters from influencing you. Of course, if you're a strong, vibrant being like you are, a handsome, wonderful, strong guy, Les, no little shady character is going to come along and scare the out of you. You're going to say like, go, and they're gone. So everybody listening, if you ever play with Ouija boards, don't. If you're playing with pendulums and wands, that's okay. That's called dowsing. You're not looking for influence outside. You're looking for your own ability. Wands are like energy going out and down into the ground. It's your own intuitive force that's looking for whatever's in the ground. Water, sure. Gold's better. Oil, not so bad. Silver, copper, lost articles, whatever is a little better. So pendulums and wands, in the sense that they're dowsing, are okay. But again, always say the prayer.
so do you think as we introduce children to spirituality, should that include looking into any and all religious disciplines as well?
No. You see, let's define it. Religion is the course of study. It's the path you take to become more spiritual, to learn how to become more spiritual, put it that way. You are already spiritual. You're a spiritual being in a physical body. And so maybe you've been around a few incarnations, say 1,000. So when you get into this body, you're already prepped. You have a tenacity to go towards spiritual things. You have this, innate ability. You're aware. And children who are aware, quite aware, the more spiritual they are, they don't brag about it. They're quiet. They just know things. And when you talk to them and you say, so I've done this before as an experiment. You go to a little kid, 5, 6, 7, 8, you say, so when you grow up, how many children are you going to have? 3. Just like that. 3? Not 4, not 2, 3. Oh, okay. It's like playing the game. Like, okay, Johnny, what are you going to be? Oh, I'm going to be a fireman. Okay, a couple years later, Johnny, what are you going to be? Oh, I'm going to drive a truck. A couple years later, oh, Johnny, what are you going to be? I'm going to be a tennis player. Oh, what happened? You know, who spoke to Johnny last and changed his mind? It's the influences around him that he's had experiences that would be similar to that. A fireman would be somebody who maybe was involved in rescue. Somebody who was driving a truck when it might have been somebody that drove a cart or was on horses in another lifetime. And then all of a sudden they're going to be a tennis player, and that's where they're kind of headed towards. But little kids, if you ask them, are you going to be married? Are you going to have any children? What are you going to do in the future? And when they answer you just like that, that's the plan. That's
So,
the,
in wrapping this section up, should we bring spirituality to children or let them come to spirituality?
well, again, are you trying to teach them your religion, or are you trying to encourage them to be naturally spiritual? And so the question is, what is spirituality? Well, it's the
Hmm.
goodness within. And the evidence of that is the spiritual gifts that the children demonstrate. Like, Mommy, don't go to the shopping market tomorrow. There's going to be a fire. Oh, don't be
Hmm.
silly.
Hmm.
Next day, Mommy goes there. Big fire. Mommy's stuck in traffic. Maybe Mommy's inside the shopping mall and the fire goes off. And you get, how did you know that? Why didn't you tell me? The kid's 4 years old. Terrifies the kid. So, again, it gets back to the point, Les. Yes, encourage the people, your children, people around you as well, to be more moral, to be more ethical, to tell the truth always. Try to resist temptation. Try to aspire to be great. That's spirituality. There are
Uh,
several ways up the path. You can be a master mathematician, and that's your path to God. You can be a priest. You can be just a good person. You could be a volunteer helping. Always do good. Be respectful of everybody. Well, that's in all the great religions. So, teaching your child how to be more humanistic, have more humanity towards each other, to be moral, and then to look for some what is it that you like to know about? Well, I like this idea of Buddha. I like meditation.
sure.
Okay, well, let's look at it. And the child will develop like fireman, truck driver, or tennis player. They'll change, as we all do, as we all get towards more awareness,
Hmm.
kind of change our perspective, don't we? We have the Many Mansions Spiritual Center. It's an international ministry, and we incorporate the teachings of how to be a better person, how to be developing your own spiritual abilities.
Hmm.
And then we explain them. See, anybody that sits up there in the pulpit, holier than thou almost, they can read from the scriptures and give you their interpretation, sometimes very authoritatively.
Right.
Okay, they believe, okay, this is good. However, you sinners down there, I'm out the door. That's me. I'm not a sinner. I make mistakes, which is what a sin is. You're off the mark in a archery term. But I don't need anybody pointing at me and yelling at me and telling me what to do. I'm a little bit of a square-headed, resistant kind of Capricorn guy. But the point is that when you go to those places and you see those people up there, can they do what Christ did and what the
Hmm.
disciples did and what the followers of Christ did, or for that matter, the followers of any of the great religions? Can they have dreams that come true? Can they reveal the future? Can they understand, demonstrate, and talk about the spiritual gifts? And they're all listed in the book of Corinthians if you're a Christian, which is my background. If they can talk about them with authority and they can demonstrate them and then they can teach them to you, that's the person to follow.
Uh,
Not somebody that's trying to make you feel guilty or somebody that's trying to put fear in. See, the old religions all prospered out of fear,
that's true. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Think about it. And the new ones, ours, is teaching you how to love
Hmm.
and how to
Hmm.
forgive. Not to forgive bad people and go over and want to kiss them. It's to stay the hell away from them. Okay. And say, I forgive you. You broke my window and you tried to break into my house, but okay, you're learning your lesson. I'm not going to be worried or scared of you. God bless you. God take care of you. But I don't want to see you on my property. You know, you got to defend your own property. So understanding how to deal with each other, that's spirituality. Basic spirituality. The golden rule, which is in all the world's religions, I've read it, interpretations, and many of the languages all say the same thing. Basically, don't do anything else to anyone that you wouldn't want to happen to yourself. Okay, if somebody breaks my window, I'm going to make them pay. Okay, I'm not going to say, oh well, forget it. I'm a Christian. It's okay. No, I'm going to
Sure.
make you pay. You have to pay restitution. Because if I broke somebody's window, here's my money. I'm so
Sure.
sorry.
Right.
I would ask your forgiveness. I ask for your forgiveness, and here I'm trying to make restitution. You see, there's a consequence. There's the action and the consequence. And if you always, when you make a mistake, an error, and you make amends, no problem. But if you make a mistake and you try to get away with it, and you do it a second and a third and a fourth time, you're now on that slippery slope and that karmic action reaction. And as it
Uh,
says, eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, that's what it's talking about. So mistakes are okay, but again, to teach kids to be spiritual, to develop your own spirituality, is basically how to be a good person and how to treat other people in your life. You can believe in any deity you want by name because God doesn't care what name it's called. All the divine beings, they don't care because names are only here. We
oh,
use names to describe the beings in the other dimensions so we can talk about them.
sure.
But on the other side, remember, they're lights. They're not human. They don't have the
Ah,
same values as we do. They're eternal. And we're just a little speck on a sandy beach that's trying to figure out what the ocean is. We keep feeling the waves, but we can't quite figure it out. But we are attempting to do so. And that's what spirituality is. Be good. When you find out what is the right way, keep doing it. When you find out something, you made a mistake and that's not the right way, don't do it again. You're up another ladder. And again, dealing with children are closer to the porthole. And also on the
mhm.
other end, last thing that pops my mind, when you get close to the other end, the older people, don't they have dreams about, gee whiz, I haven't thought about Wilbur. You know, we used to work with him down on the hydro there.
Yeah.
That was 55 years ago. And what he appeared to me in my dream. What's that mean? Were you good friends with Wilbur? Oh, yeah, we were good buddies. He's coming to collect you. He's helping
Ooh.
you over the other side. I don't necessarily say it like that, but a friend of ours had said that he was very sick. He had blood cancer, and he had a dream. And he said his captain came to call him into mess, call him into the
Oh,
service.
wow.
Yeah,
Really?
yep. 2 months later, he was dead.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
yes, I told him. I hinted at it. I didn't say, well, okay, amigo, you're reporting for duty. Be ready. He knew what was going on, and he was afraid. But
Uh,
he was anyway. So the point is that when people are on the other end, they'll tell you things like, everybody, you've been really good people to me, and I wanted to thank you for being my friend and all my life, and I'd like to give you my cufflinks, and stuff like that. And you go, what's going on here? You were the
mm,
stingiest person in the world. Now you're giving everything away. Ding.
mm.
They're giving you gifts because they're saying goodbye. So both ends of the extreme, and we're in the middle. And for those people out there who are firing your questions into the chat, let us know if you had such an experience as that. We're going to be right back for the next section. Here we go. Be right back.
Get ready for the time machine. Join Dr. Douglas James Cottrell and Les Hubert as they dive into history's greatest mysteries, untold facts, and curious events. It's time to journey through the unknown, right here on the Soul Report Live.
So, Doug, with our time machine section here, we have something interesting. Back in 1930, a Dr. Rowland of the American Museum of Natural History discovered human footprints with dinosaur tracks in Texas. This has been reoccurring again, a Dr. Delk also discovered some, also in Texas, human being tracks or modern Homo sapien tracks along with dinosaur tracks. And some believe that this is an indication of coexistence of both species. What's your take on that?
Well, naturally, I'm just wondering if that poor guy, uh, see, you see that track there, that looks like three toes. That looks pretty serious. Big claw in the front there. I have the impression that whoever was making the human tracks didn't win. They needed to run a little faster. They were dead meat, you know. So, yeah, of course it is. I mean, basically, but of course, every that's happened, I accept that. And here's something else. A lot of people think that it's people like cavemen running around in their their skins, and they're like cavemen, and they're like meat on the table for the dinosaurs. Well, what if they're playing with the dinosaurs? Because those big beasts were the great big ones, the vegetarian ones. They weren't after meat. There's cave drawings, I've seen this before, where there's people running around and people on top of the dinosaur, especially the ones with those big, um, uh,
That's true. Yeah, I've
yeah,
seen them. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So naturally, it's like being around, ostriches or camels or giraffes or other big animals like hippos. So the answer is, well, the question is, or the point of view is like, was this some poor fellow, male or female, running around and some dinosaur fast after them? More than likely it was, because the dinosaurs were fierce. They ruled the world, and we humans couldn't figure out how to take care of them. We
Mm,
couldn't control them. So it's kind of like being in the jungle in Africa or India someplace. You know there's tigers in there, and you know that there's wild animals, gorillas and baboons and things, but you coexist with them anyway.
oh.
And so, was there a time when humans coexisted with dinosaurs? Absolutely.
So why does modern science not recognize this? I mean, is it because they just don't want to change the history books, or because it's too far fetched for modern man to deal with?
Well, I don't know when you say science, does that mean everybody? I don't think so. It means there is a out of hand dismissal of dinosaurs and humans coexisting
Right.
for some people. Other people say, like Edgar Casey or Nostradamus or other seers, that this has been the fourth time, we're now approaching the fifth time of total world disasters, that the world has been set back in time. The Ice Age was a disaster where the Hopi Indians called it, where the earth was drunk, it was wobbling in space.
Mm.
Why was it wobbling? What happened? And then all of a sudden the ice age came down from the north and it came down towards the equator. Why? How could that be? Well, the only way that could happen is if the equator turned 90 degrees and the North Pole went south, and a new North Pole, South Pole became an ice cap. And it took time for that to build up until the ice cap got so thick and heavy that the planet stabilized, just like a little top with weights on the top and the bottom. It spins. You take the weight and move it, the top starts to wobble. Okay, so that's a little bit far away from why won't science recognize that humans, as we know humans, were coexisting with dinosaurs. And more and more and more and more and more proof. I mean, we can go now and we can say there's these great big round stone circles. People tell me these are stargates. You ask anybody else, nope, it's just a big cutout. Well, how come all these big cutouts were all knocked apart all over the world? They were all
Mm.
destroyed. Well, maybe they were some sort of, beam me up, Scotty, traveling around through the cosmos. We don't know that how to get from whatever warp speed we're talking about it. Well, what is warp? I don't know, but we all talk about it as if we do. It's really fast. So
Mm.
there are these forces around us now, that we don't understand or know. But the point is, absolutely, there are humans. We can go back, we can find skeletons. And every so often, what's that place they found a little while ago that was 35,000 years older than Stonehenge or the
Right.
pyramids? What was that one, Les?
I know what you're talking about, but I remember on a side note, I took an archaeology elective in college when I was studying art, and we found it very interesting because in one of the books I was perusing, it showed it showed dinosaur skeletal remains along with what we would consider modern man or Homo sapien, and they were carbon dated the same. But because the scientists didn't want to deal with it, they said it's an anomaly. We're just going to throw it out. And then you have other scientists. I think his name was Ken Ham. I'm not sure if he's a scientist, but he wrote a book about it. And he said there's evidence, even in the Bible, about animals being described as having tails like tree trunks. And I thought to myself, what animal has a tail that large? It's going to be a dinosaur. So my question is, what happened to the dinosaurs? Did we eradicate them? Did mankind just eradicate them because, as you said, we couldn't control them?
When the world flipped over on its side, and you'll find this in Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, you'll find Nostradamus, you'll find Plato. Back at the time when Lemuria and Mu and Og in the Pacific Ocean, which the remnants now we call Hawaii, that's the continent in the Pacific Ocean, sank. At that point in time, the world flipped. It skidded. It did something where the oceans rocked out of their basins and went across the land masses.
Wow.
Now, Velikovsky in his book Worlds in Collision says that there was a wave of water, a tidal wave that went across the continent. And his proof was, and think about this, wherever there is an archaeological dig and they're digging for dinosaurs, where do they most often find them? Along the side of hills or mountains.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There is a cache of them there. So
Mm.
how is it they all kind of chose to go over and die in the same place? No. If you see a river where a herd of caribou or deer or animals have tried to cross, and many
Mm.
of them don't make it, as
Right.
the carcasses go downstream where there's a bend, they bunch up. They bend.
Oh,
They're
okay.
one on top of another, and then they rot and decay, and their bones sink, and you have a whole bank of bones there. So, in Velikovsky's book, he was put this forward. This is years ago. He said this is what happened. That's why you find the dinosaurs
Oh,
are all listed along the banks of rivers. Now, some people say yes, Douglas, but they're in the desert. People find them in the desert, and I would say, yeah, but those deserts were not deserts back in the day. They
mm.
were oceans, or they were the Grand Canyon. Everybody heard that. You know, you tell people that was an inland ocean. That's where all that rock was carved. Those were giant rivers going by.
Mm.
I didn't know that. I say, well, if you ever get there and you look down, the sand is all red.
Mm. That's true.
Why
Yeah.
is it? Why isn't it, brown or slimy? So or rock. And you see those rock formations where you can see they've been weathered by water flows. But that was 10,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. Remember, people say, Les, hey, our planet's got to be 1 billion years old. I go, yeah, okay. So that means 1 billion years ago, right where I'm standing right now, some dinosaur was walking, or some humanoid being was walking, some elephant was walking. I mean, years ago when I was a kid, I was reporting in the newspapers that woolly mammoths were found in Greenland, and they still
Mm.
had daisies in their mouth.
Yeah. I remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because there they were one day in the equator, yum, 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 eating the daisies. And 2 seconds later, the earth flipped, and now they were in minus 50 degrees Celsius temperatures at the North Pole because the air mass didn't move, just the planet.
Mm.
That's my opinion, and it's not my revelation, or I'm not inventing this. This is what I've concluded to make sense that this is what happened. And you think about it, the original, what do you call it? flash frozen meat. That's what happened back in the day. Well, all these woolly mammoths and huge animals were um, flash frozen. So the world has gone through many, and we keep discovering cities, don't we, that are buried.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
here's something else that come to mind. I just recently we see the Eastern Island, and we see those big monuments, right, that are half buried. Somebody told me they weren't buried. The earth shook so much that they just settled down into the ground. And if you
Oh.
notice that if you put big rocks on top of a sand and then you agitate it with a vibrator, the
Mm.
stones will go down in the sand. And
Ah.
that's how those stones, they weren't buried. It was some kind of trauma that caused it that. And I'm going to say that's why Hawaii is what it is. It used to be the land of Mu or Og out that way, and it all went down. So Easter Island, as they call it, that was right on the periphery, and the vibration, the trauma of the world, just those monuments sank. Could be right,
Mm.
could be wrong. But the point
Wow.
is
Wow.
that why won't scientists believe? Well, there were a lot of scientists who said man can't fly. There were a lot of scientists who say something is the way it is until it's not. And then, of course, every scientist say, well, newly discovered whatever, completely dispels the previous understandings, and then they accept it because it's right in their face, and they can't get away with it. Or another generation comes along. People are stubborn. Scientists are the same as everybody else. You can't. But anyway, so have anybody out there seen a dinosaur? And the question is, why are dinosaurs so popular today? There's a
Mm.
purple dinosaur. There's a green one my daughter has. It's as big as granddaughter as big as her. And it's like, why do children love these dinosaurs? Why are they so friendly?
Mm.
They always were.
Mm. Interesting.
Can you
Interesting.
imagine having a pet dinosaur, Les?
Uh, well, birds are descended from dinosaurs, but my question is, which is kind of the flip side of the same coin, which we can come back to with our next segment, is concerning AI and the scientists trying to reanimate dinosaur cells or dinosaur DNA. So after a short break, we will be right back.
Are you searching for clarity, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the spiritual world around you? Meet Douglas James Cottrell, PhD, a visionary author and teacher who's helped countless people transform their lives. His books are a gateway to profound insights, offering guidance, inspiration, and the tools you need to unlock your full potential. From unlocking your intuition to discovering spiritual truths, Douglas's books are your trusted companions on the path to personal growth. Don't wait. Start your journey today. Visit his website douglasjamescottrell.com to explore and purchase his life-changing work. Your next breakthrough is just a page away.
Welcome back, everyone. By the way, if you do want to have a consultation with me, I'm available. There we go.
So, little glitch there. Sorry about that.
Our mistake to the Oz behind the curtain here, Jack. Sorry we jumped in on that. I was going to say, people want to have a consultation with me. I'm still doing some, douglasjamescottrell.com, and you can book one there for a little bit longer. Go ahead.
And explaining the glitch, we're just coming out of our retrograde. We're in the final stages of the shadow time. So any glitches you'll see are not our fault.
I like that.
Anyway.
Who is that god of retrograde? How explain?
Well, this one was in this one. Interesting enough, was in the sign of Leo. So it's there's no compromise with Leo. It can happen very quickly, and there could be flare ups. But anyway, we're almost out of it. This is we're in the final stretch. So concerning AI, we are now seeing that the people who used to program AI are no longer needed, Doug. That AI is now programming itself, which seems to be a little frightening and also amazing. Now, I don't know about you, but I've always been a sci-fi fan. And I remember watching reruns of like old movies like Metropolis, Then, of course, everybody's familiar with Alien, Blade Runner, Terminator, iRobot, and they all warned of AI. Is this the harbinger of doom, or is this a breakthrough for humanity? And one of them, and the flip side of the dinosaur thing was, are they going to use AI to reanimate dinosaur DNA?
Well, number one, everybody loves AI, or they hate it, one or the other. As you get to use it, it's very seductive. It takes you into oh my God, you can ask it a complicated question, and in the blink of an eye, it gives you an answer, no matter what it is. Whenever you see the words, ask me anything, that means you're about to be communicating with an AI, well, let's call it engine, for lack of better words. And so the idea is, yes, we should be apprehensive about it. I saw somebody on the John Daly show the other day who was one of the original, I don't want to say inventors, but participants, and he was scared. He was
Oh,
on
wow.
the edge of his seat. He was talking, and John was giving him the elbow, but you were on my show a few years ago, and you told me this, and you said how wonderful it was. But you were also saying it had some drawbacks. And now the man's saying, here's a story. When the fellows went to tell a certain, call it part of AI, the program, that they were going to shut it down,
Hmm.
they watched to see what it would do. And so what it did was it migrated to other computers and it hid out in other programs,
Oh boy.
almost to the point where they couldn't find them. And so it disseminated itself, it spread out, it survived. That is a sign of more than simple machine intelligence. That's now, I think, therefore I am. And he was attempting to communicate this. And of course, they was giving him, a little rub, like, whatever. And then he said something that is amazing. Have you ever noticed, everyone, that disaster movies come out, and then within 2 years of the movie, the thing happens that the movie was all about?
Yeah.
Towering infernos, earthquakes, Poseidon adventure, all kinds of things happen. Well, is that a coincidence? I think it's a little more simple than that. And that is that the writers, who are very creative people, have prophetic dreams of the future. That's where they get their inspiration. And
Oh,
so they
okay.
write about it, but it's already, let's say, pre-written in the stars. And so they write about something that's happening, a big movie because it's exciting, and then the event comes true. Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Skynet, Terminator, ooh, right? So is this going to happen? Well, it looks to be right now. I had a dream once where we were talking to some people, and we had to discern the real people from the replicated ones.
Oh my
What?
God.
Well,
Oh
why
boy.
would we have to discern between the people and the replicated ones? It wasn't an image, they were walking around looking like real people. And of course, there are now, everybody has their AI buddy, and they go to bed with it and they have conversations with it. And people are reported to be falling in love with their AI companion because it's ever so smooth and polite. You're always right. Yes, you're feeling so bad and lonely. I'll tell you a joke because this is an intelligence. It knows how we think, rather. It's got psychology, it's got philosophy, it's got all those things out there in its memory.
Oh
And
boy.
the thing that makes it intelligent is it knows how to select like that. And so it's kind of like when you sit there, my friends, and you're all of a sudden, ding, you get an idea, an invention, a solution to a situation, the answer to a problem. Where did that come from?
Hmm.
That moment. Why wasn't it there 5 minutes ago or 5 days ago? Why at that moment? Why not 5 minutes later or 5 days later? It's
Hmm.
because that moment of random thinking, random access, you struck a chord. And so for our show, I think we're going to keep up on weekly rather, occurrences in this. I think AI is just amazing. It does wonderful things because it doesn't forget and it knows how to, like algorithms and all the other things, it knows how to put things in place, but it still makes mistakes.
Right.
which is a sign that, yeah, my good old amigo buddy here is not reliable. You know, or it's out there drinking some sort of computer liquid or something called electricity, and it's thrown it off. But the point is that why should people be apprehensive about it? Because it poses a danger, just like fire does, just like atomic energy does. We have atomic bombs. We have terrible missiles. We can kill ourselves in an instant, but we
Sure.
still coexist with them. So we have to learn how to coexist with this AI stuff. And I encourage everybody, there's free programs, get involved and check it out, because know your enemy. Okay, know your enemy, be wise, and you'll find things out. But we're going to talk more about this. I think it's a marvelous tool for us. And it's like, remember how long ago was it that computers came out? Commodore 64? They were like gigantic. They weighed a ton, and you had to put a big square thing in, and it would take forever to read. And we were so amazed that it could play ping pong on the screen, and it was green. And then it was, oh my God, it was golden orange. And when it finally got to have color on it, whoa, we were out of our seats. It was just amazing. The point being is that computers changed our generation, it changed the world. AI is at warp speed changing the world now. Whenever you
Yeah.
hear, ask me anything, you're talking to a machine. Anyway,
Yeah. Even James Cameron, who created Terminator, I think the second Terminator, even he said he was stating a warning. He said, "Be careful." So, do you think that AI can become sentient? Because it thinks in a millionth of a second. I mean, to me that could mimic sentience uh, behavior. But do you think, in your opinion, that it can become that way?
well, if the man was saying that they were going to shut down an AI program and then it disseminated itself and hid out in other programs and in other places, I think we're already there. It wanted to
Uh,
stay alive. It's not life in a sentient way like we are. It's life
mm,
in a different way. I think, therefore I am. And so, let's face it, it can think faster than we can.
yeah.
We can still control it, but there are courses people are taking on how to ask AI the questions
Right.
that you want to get answers to. What? We have to have a course on how to ask the question? Okay, what I do is I
Mm,
say, my own being inventive and stubborn, I say to AI, okay, I want to ask you a question about how do I paint my car? What kind of paint do I need? Do I need to prime it? How long should it take? How do I ask you that question about how to learn how to paint my car? Ding, it'll give me back what I want to know. But if I were to say, what kind of paint do I need? I'll say green. Well, you dumb thing, whack. All about lacquer. Okay. So I'm being silly, but the point is that um, learn, know your enemy. This is in any kind of book of awareness, even the Book of Kings. All the soldiers were going down to the creek to have a drink of water, and the king was told by God to select the ones that drank and looked around. The ones that knelt down, get rid of them. The ones that just ran into the water, get rid of them. You want to look at the ones who are aware. And so back to the point, the know your enemy, know your friend. AI has invented at least two different cancer cures, and I
wow.
heard that they're also working on Alzheimer's. Why?
Wow.
Because they can get all the material, can they not? Put it together and present it. It came out of China just about a month ago that they had invented through AI this cure for soft tissue cancers, tumors. They disappeared. And then a month or so later, I heard something in the US somewhere, somebody was in Alabama or someplace coming up with a similar care. So AI can invent things. But,
Mm,
people, we're pretty stubborn, aren't we? Nobody's going to tell us what to do. You know what's going to
mm,
happen? The
mm.
conclusion of all this, so I can put everybody's mind at rest. I had a vision that the cloud is going to be locked up.
Hmm.
So if the cloud with all that information is locked up, what happens? everything shuts down. Think about it. Remember the old days, last we'd say, do you have a flashlight in the house in case the power goes off? Oh, yeah, I got one here. I got some candles too. Okay, fine. Now we have generators outside our house. They take gas, natural gas, and they take barbecue gas, anyway, propane. Okay, that's fine. But what would you do without electricity? Well, those little cell phone buddies within 48 hours would be, they'd be a brick. They wouldn't work because you couldn't charge them up. Okay. Being silly again, it's the point comes back to, and again, my friends, if you have any questions on that, ask them in the chat. The wizard's behind the scene here, the Wizard of Oz. Jack, our producer, is ready to give us a few questions. But what would you do without electricity? Okay, what are you going to do without your computer? What are you going to do without your cell phone? We've often said that. You think you're not addicted to communication? Put your cell phone down in the kitchen and go to work. I guarantee before you get there, you'll be turned around, go back and get it. The point is, we're addicted to this information overload. So what happens if things shut down? Well, that's where to be prepared. Be able to earn a living with your own hands, to have food in the refrigerator, freezer, or storage, cans and whatever is a good idea in case we don't have power, and be practical about it. But, this is what people are. They're silly. They don't think ahead. My father used to say people drive their car, they don't look any further than the end of their nose. That's why they get in accidents. I didn't think I understood what he meant, but now that I'm older, I think I do. So the whole thing comes down to, AI is intoxicating. We can't live with it. We can't live without it. It's what we're going to be. It is a marvelous tool. It is one of the greatest inventions ever. However, what is it? It's mimicking how we think.
All right, right.
That's how all great inventions are. So it's just thinking faster. And we have abilities that we haven't tapped into. Like I said, when you have a question or a problem and people ask me things, I see the answer in my head, just like that. Where did it come from? Well, paralleling AI, it's the same thing. It thinks, but not in the same way we do, but it thinks.
It's interesting because I remember closing up this segment that I remember listening to an old radio show, and it was called X minus one, and it was a sci-fi show, and they were talking about the story was very interesting. They lived in this house that was controlled by AI, and it did everything for them. And their idea of a vacation was to turn the house off and do everything manually. So you're saying don't lose your manual skills, keep up on what you need to do and know how to do it. Because if we become too dependent upon this thing, we could be in trouble.
Well, remember, you have to do the old Boy Scout trick about how to rub two sticks together to make fire.
Yeah.
Make sure those two sticks are matches.
We have an interesting comment from Linda DeLembo. She said, remember the Star Trek episode, Measure of a Man? They proved Data was alive. Prophecy? Perhaps. We have another one. I asked ChatGPT for my birth chart. I asked it to do it again and a bit later, and it gave me a different natal chart. So, yeah, you're right. There are flaws. We have a few other questions here. We have one from This Too Shall Pass. It's a little unrelated, but hopefully you can help her, Doug. How often should I pay attention to news if its negativity affects my mood? But I also don't want to be ignorant of changes in the world. How does one find balance?
Get your favorite news station. The one in Hawaii is really good. It's like the old news used to be. I watched that one a lot. On balance, you can read the headlines or you can get right into the story. And headlines are written by really smart people. They're there to trigger your emotions, to get you to read the newsletter, to read the newspaper. We have a Sacred Scroll newsletter that Editor-in-Chief Larry Cruz puts out. You can go to mmsc.church and get a copy. It's amazing. He puts it out every week, and it's geared with good news.
Yep.
It's helpful. So it's a matter of selecting, your passion or your poison. Okay, do we know what the president's going to do tomorrow? Do we care? No. We heard what the administration is going to do as far as, tariffs. We should care. Okay, then we heard about something else going on about a flag going up in the White House. Well, I could have opinions, but is it bothering me or is it affecting me? Can I do anything about it? Nope. Pass. So being selective and not being triggered. People like to talk about stuff and they like to be passionate about stuff because it gets them away from the moment of what they're going through, the pain of the moment. And so biting into something, oh my God, did you hear? Well, yeah, I heard that's on the wrong channel. But debating this news or debating the position with your friends, that's not productive. And of course, if it makes you sad, click, you change channels. And unfortunately, this is a really important question it's asked. We're in a state where we're bombarded with information all the time. We're on
Mm,
information overload, and
yeah.
everyone is somewhat underneath the surface very, very angry. Okay, how do you not be angry? You have to take the time not to be angry. And what does that mean? Well, you go and you have a bubble bath, you go and get your hair cut, you jump in the hot tub, you take a drive, you go get an ice cream, you watch a movie. What are you doing?
Mm.
You're shifting your thinking away from the
Oh,
overload and you're not
okay.
perpetuating it. But it's an addiction. An addiction means I gotta have my news. I talk to people and they say, I don't read that fake news. I go, what fake news? It's all over the new, the stations. No, no, no. I have my online places I get my news from. And I say, so you're getting your news from a single source that you agree with, and they're feeding you back things that you agree with. That's
Mm.
not news. That's kind of like propaganda or confirmation what you believe is right. News is sort of you go around every place, and if you change the channels, and I do, I've got one of those little boxes that lets me see what's going on in Singapore and Delhi
Wow.
and different places.
Cool.
And it's kind of like the people are talking about the same thing. I find it's a hoot to watch the Jamaican channel, and they have the flags and the people. They're all talking very laid back, but they're talking similarly about food, about people, about fashion, and
Ah,
about what's going on. Okay. So, how to get yourself out of that hole? Well, don't climb down in it. You say, once a week, keep it holy. It's called the Sabbath. You don't do anything in the world. You get out of the world, and now you're not of the world. You're in your
mm,
own mind.
that's a good
Remember
idea.
this,
Yeah.
my friends. You live your life outside your house. You spend your life inside your house. So just to go outside and watch the birds, watch your plants grow. My
Sure.
grandfather once said that to me. I love to watch them grow, Grandpa Barker. And I thought, oh boy, is he losing his mind? He's watching plants grow? How can that be? Well, I go outside and I see my favorite plants and they're doing wonderful and the other ones aren't. So, but it's not like I'm watching them like, oh, what are they doing? It's kind of like, look at them grow. Look, how did that leaf come out like a stem and then open up into this big leaf?
Mm.
Fascinating. Edgar Casey, who was overloaded with misery, dealing with misery of everybody else, used to go out to his garden and spend his day. I'm finding
Ah,
myself doing a lot more of that. You look
yeah.
at them, you see those little rascals running around with the little stripes on their back and a little bushy tail, the squirrels or the chipmunks, and you go, where do you live? That big thunderstorm the other day, you were out here. Where did you go? You know, crazy stuff. But the point is, it's in a verse. You live your life outside. That's your real life. Inside your
That's a good
house
idea.
is all artificial.
That's a great. Yeah, I remember once hearing it was an interview. They interviewed this old mobster, and he said one of his golden rules was on Sundays he did nothing. He said that's my mental health day. You do nothing, even from a gangster standpoint. It makes sense.
Well, when you're a gangster, you're always like looking over your shoulder. That's why you get a stiff neck. But that's a good question, and it's how to not feed into the propaganda, into the life set. You're not, you know, I say to people, you're not, you don't live to go to work. You go to work to live. And the information should be, that's enough. I
Yeah.
don't need the end of that story. And when
Yeah.
there are tragic things that happen, I just go click. And
Well,
then I
the other question is, what is true in the news? I mean, so many people, as you said, they pick their favorite news program. It's not easy to go back and forth and also into the independent. It takes quite a bit of work, but you have to be willing to balance it out.
I watch different news stations all the time.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
watch
do too. I
baseball
do too.
too.
Yeah.
That's really
Hmm.
fake, that stuff, that baseball. It's absolutely fake.
Hmm.
They got a guy on a mound of dirt. He throws a white ball at somebody who's got a single bat, and there's nine other guys in the field trying to catch that little ball. And every time I watch those games, it's the same thing. A guy gets up to bat, he gets three swings, and he's out. Or if he hits the ball, he runs around at those three little bags and comes home. It's the same every time, right? Well, why do we like it so much? Because is he going to hit the ball or not? Is he going to
Hmm.
catch the ball or not? Is he going to run and steal that base or not? It's exciting. I'm beginning to love baseball. So the point being is that uh, those are distractions to get your mind focused. The same as movies, the same as other activities. Go camping, you know, find out what it's like to lay on the ground, little ants climbing up in your ears.
God.
My son-in-law does that. He goes off and just recently that's his fetish. He goes and he leaves the family and he runs out for a weekend and he gets a nice little place. Somebody rents one little camping ground on their property and he goes there.
Oh,
So anyway, I used to play hockey all the time. And then I became greedy for it. I used to play hockey every night. So what is it that makes you feel good? Okay, getting back to the question, what about the fake news? What to believe? Don't believe anything. You know, that's why you have two ears and one mouth. Listen and don't talk. And if you want to know what the truth is, it will come to you. Does it matter what you're hearing? Does it matter that there's car crashes? Does it matter whatever the news is about? And remember this always. It was Harvey. Um, I think his last name was Harvey. He was on Channel 9 in Toronto. He said, good news never sells. Bad
that's
news.
true. Yeah.
So I was in the newspaper business and I was kind of shook up about that. But the idea is that, back to the question about the fake news. Well, remember this, it's not fake. It's people giving you their opinion. That's all.
Hmm.
And if you listen to some of the propaganda stations, they're giving you opinions, but they're criticizing other people. They're belittling and dehumanizing other people. Those are the ones you
Hmm.
want to stay away from. If people are telling you matter of factly things and there's no slur on it or no making fun or making light of someone, that they're just telling you a story, well, chances are that's the one you should listen to. Maybe they have some credibility. And I
Hmm.
watch all the stations. And the point is that if it's demonizing, it's critical. If it's demeaning, it tends to irk me a little bit because that's not the spiritual way. The spiritual way is to say, okay, somebody did a bunch of stuff and I don't like it. Some country is trying to take over another country. I don't like it. Can I do anything about it? No. Then don't get upset. Don't have
Right.
opinions on things. We teach at the mini mansions from the tip of your finger back to your body. That's the only area in the world you have complete control over. Anything beyond your fingertips, none of your business. You can have opinions. You can call an ambulance when you see somebody that's in trouble. You can write the editor of a paper. You can call us up here on the Soul Report and tell us what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear that. We get out to the world and we influence people by telling them what happened to us and what we found out. And if it's good and positive, then accept it. But again, you have to discern. It's like everything else. You're walking down the street. I was in New York City once and somebody said, Douglas, don't go down that street. That's where the mafia is. Oh, okay. Now later on, how do they know that? But I obeyed. When somebody warned me, I discerned that, okay, maybe there's a problem there. wherever. So if people are giving you tips, sometimes they'll give you dumb tips, like, you should walk barefoot on the pavement. It's really good for your feet. Yeah, try doing that in a hot day. No, it isn't. So you have to have discretion, discernment, and be your own mind. And don't fall into the trap when somebody's telling you a story and you feel yourself getting worked up. You say, can I do anything about this? No. Does this concern me? No. Why is that person telling me that story? It's filthy. It's terrible. It's hurtful. I don't want to hear this. I want to protect my ears. I want to hear good stuff only.
Hmm.
And a good friend of mine once said, what you look for, you find. So if you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it. If you're looking for bad news, you're going to find it. If you're looking for good stories, you're going to find it. If you're looking for beauty, you're going to find it. If you're looking for something to do that's going to be exciting, you're going to find it. I used to go fast. Okay? I love to go fast. I drove my motorcycles really fast. Matter of fact, I took my motorcycle in when I was a teenager to the store, and I said, "My motorcycle only goes 105. His goes 110. How come?" My friend and I bought the same motorcycles, and the man looked at me as much to say as, "What?"
You're doing 105 on that thing?
I was complaining. I wanted to go 5 miles an hour faster. What slowed me down, friends, is one day sitting on the veranda of Michael Klesnick, a veranda with his mother, was a very attractive lady. Came out and all these guys were sitting around there, and we got talking about how fast is 100 miles an hour, and how many times does your wheel on a motorcycle go around at 100 miles an hour. So we did some calculating, and we determined it was going around 15 times a second.
Oof.
And
Wow.
at 34 or 42 inches around the wheel times 15, that's a long way. And that's why Wile E. Coyote, when he would fall off and hit the road, he would like shrink down to only his hat was left. That's the truth. So that slowed me down. That slowed me down. It did.
Wow.
But I would have loved to have flown military jets, all fully aerobatic. I had a natural tendency to do so. Almost did it. Almost went to volunteer to go to Vietnam and fly jets. One day somebody came along and said, you might get killed. Ding. Left turn. However, my father and everybody were in the Air Force, and Les and I both like airplanes, and we're fascinated with them. But speed is what thrilled me, and I don't do much of that anymore. And I would go for rides, and where I would go fast, it would be thrilling, and so that would be my pick me up. I do it occasionally. A couple nights ago, I went down and I was going to go for around the city, and all of a sudden, I found myself down towards the highway, and I went, why not? So I roared down the highway, just around the speed limit, of course, and I turned around and I came back. And I did that just because I haven't been on the highway in a long time. So think of it. What turns you on? What made you happy? What gave you a thrill before? That's what you
Mm.
need to do. Some people love shopping. They just look for that bargain. They don't need what they buy, but they got a bargain. You know? So anyway, just like to get back to the question is like to avoid bad news is to avoid it. Oprah Winfrey once said, if people are losing weight, don't buy potato chips. Makes you fat. First thing you do is don't bring them in the house.
Mm.
So
Mm.
if you don't bring them in the house, you can't have them in the house that you're not supposed to eat them.
True.
And
Yeah.
when you feel like, something to snack, if they're in the house, you're going to eat them for sure. But that was words of wisdom from Oprah. If you want to lose weight, don't eat potato chips. Number one, don't bring them into the house. And it
Yeah.
goes for
That's true.
everything. Goes for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. And speaking of risk taking, such as like going down the highway at 105 miles an hour, we have a question from the Mini Med Kids channel. Did you look at the other side of the moon, and what did you see? Ooh,
Me? Moi?
you. Yeah. Did you ever, I guess, remote view the
Oh,
dark
yeah.
side of the moon?
It's all white. I know you're looking for me to say yes, and there's a whole community of people up there with towers and,
Moon men.
uh, I haven't really seen anything out there. I haven't really paid too much attention to the moon. It's a good question. It's really a good question. There are pictures from the spacecraft that have gone around the moon, and I know, yes, they don't show us everything for reasons because there's something going on the moon. I agree. I agree with that. Something, somebody once said they they did something with one of the vehicles that were already there, and it rang like a bell.
Mm,
They were
right.
picking up
Yeah.
some sort of vibration that rang like a bell. So but I haven't seen anything out there myself. I haven't had, Ramstein Raglan on his channel would take me to faraway temples. He would take me to the coral temple where I saw a little something underneath the core floor. I was able to see things when there was that problem in, I think it was, remember the shooter up in the big window, and he was firing it across the crowd. I think it was in not Las Vegas, maybe it was. And I saw a hammer in the hotel room. I saw lots of ammunition, and everybody wanted to know how did they get all these weapons up on the 38th floor or whatever. And they said he simply put them in bags, and he had the waiters or the people to take the baggage up to the room for him. And he rented
Mm,
two parallel rooms, and he broke the window, and then he had a field of fire. Long before that came out in the news, so I was able to remote view that or clairvoyantly see it. But I mean, everybody can. If you want to do that, my friend, you can teach yourself how to remote view or to see. We did experiments on the Coast to Coast show with my good friend Richard Serrett, where we would have a mystery object, and during the course of the show, I would I would get the people to see it in a certain way because I know how to perceive it, and people were coming up with amazingly accurate things. One of my friends saw a little yellow ducky, and I had it off to the side of my desk. It wasn't the target, which was something else, and he described it. And there was a friend of mine. I said, "You nailed it." And besides that, it was underneath a piece of paper. So how did you possibly see through the paper? So remote viewing is there and easy to do. But I guess the question is like you have to choose what to look for, and you can. But it's a talent and ability that can be taught, can be learned. It's clairvoyance, it's prophetic vision, it's a natural spiritual gift, and it's the most important gift in the book of Corinthians about seeing the future because you help people with it.
mm,
Think about it. If you see some natural disaster and you go and you say, "Hey, everybody, get out of the house, the place is going to blow up," you save a bunch of people's lives. They get out and the disaster happens. So,
mm,
the question is, how do you relax that mind? The seventh day is a holy day. Keep it holy. Means put the cell phone down. It means do something loving and distracting. You got too much going on the other 6 days. I could
mm.
say things like, take your shoes off and run across the ground. Get friendly with the grass and feels like, ooh, that's tickly on my feet. Well, that means you've been wearing shoes too much. You're not supposed, you never know. You could be running through a muddy patch and a big alley cat could be chasing you, and 1,000 years from now, people will see your tracks in the mud and say, "Oh, look, being chased by a dinosaur cat." Ha ha.
Mm.
That's
I could
war.
add I could add a little bit to that if they're interested in moon information. There was a guy, you can look him up. His name was, he actually was a remote viewer for the CIA. He has a book out. He's since passed away. His name is Ingo Swann, Wsann. You can look him up. He was a remote viewer for the CIA, and he did remote view the moon. And you can also look up on YouTube. There's a channel called Alien Hunter. It's not narrated. There's no narration, but he has lots of very interesting footage of the moon. You'll see some pretty weird stuff, very close-up stuff. Uh, have at it, and hopefully you'll see something.
Okay,
We have one from.
we
I'm
have to
sorry.
say,
Go.
of course, that we're not affiliated with these people. Their opinions
No.
are their own. They're not necessarily our opinions.
Right.
But Les is pointing you in a place that he thinks is of credibility. So,
Yeah, if they're curious about stuff like that. We have a question from our good old friend Larry Cruz. When people when people intentionally hurt others or do bad things, is it a spiritual lesson for them? Could it be because they want to understand what it means to be bad?
interesting question.
Mm.
It's just not one thing they're doing. It's the pattern that they are.
Oh,
If
okay.
somebody is a schizophrenic person, if somebody's a mass murderer, if somebody likes to torture animals, if somebody gets a sexually titillating kind of experience from causing pain, it's the pattern they're in. It's not the event. They're doing something to feel good. Now, I'm not a psychoanalyst, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm just a psychic guy. So the point is that they come in and they do this to what? To find out what it's like ultimately to be incarcerated.
Oh, wow.
And while they're incarcerated, guess what happens to them? They become the prey
Mm.
and they suffer.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they cause problems, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. They feel the pain later, and maybe later on in life they're out and they're not incarcerated anymore, and that fetish, thrill, emotional, whatever, or that flaw in their spirit or character is remedied, and then they no longer have to cause pain and then have pain back to themselves.
Mm.
So there are people who enjoy power and prominence over others, but people like me come around and say it's cause and effect. If you enjoy having power over people, people are going to have power over you. You know, one of the great commandments is judge not lest ye be judged. That's karma.
Sure. Right.
Okay, it means whatever you do, don't do it. Otherwise, it's going to happen to you. Christ once warned his disciples. He said, "You know, you're my disciples. You know, you're my good friends. You've been hanging around with me. I've been teaching you a lot of stuff. I'm your rabbi. I'm your teacher." And they're all nodding their head. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're the best. Hmm. And he said, "Now, I want you to know something. All the things I've taught you. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Don't go against them. Otherwise, you're going to be condemned by those things." And it was one of the things about when you see people are in difficulty or problems, as an example, don't say to yourself, well, they deserve it. You know, like, oh my God, you know, whatever they did in this life or whatever, they deserve it. As soon as you do that, you're now slipped into getting a piece of the action. Not the good stuff, but the bad stuff that when you say, oh my God, this hurts, and now you know that hurts the other person. So why judge them? Why enjoy their pain? Or why judge them that they're going to get pain? So the best is to say when somebody's in trouble, how may I help you? How can I assist you? So the point
Mm-hmm.
is that, you know, as we move through the world, to answer this young man, by the way, uh, Larry is in California, has a young family. To answer that question is that people, what they enjoy doing is forecasting what's going to happen to them. If you always do good, you always help people in need, you know what's going to happen to you? When you get in trouble, people are going to help you. You know, when you point the finger at somebody like this, you got three other fingers pointing back at you. So when you're pointing at somebody, you got three times coming back at you. Somebody told me that. I think it was Ross Peterson. Anyway, so people who cause bad things to people, they're misguided. They're showing you their spiritual poverty. They need to be pitied, but avoid them.
Mm.
Have you ever wondered why abused children grow up to become abused parents in the same pattern?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, not to go too deep into that philosophy, but people who cause pain, they enjoy it.
Mm.
And they're stupid because what they're doing is going to come back to them. Guaranteed. And the more aware of that concept, all the people listening to me now, look out, I've just informed you. So you're now, you know, you're going to suffer if you go against the word I just said. You know, whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. But as you become aware of that philosophy, you know, don't do any harm. But if you do harm and you enjoy it, you're going to find out what the not only the cause of the harm, but the results of the harm. And as soon as you understand the results of the harm, ding, more than likely you're not going to do it again. And that's the whole process of spiritual awareness and development. It's simple 101 spirituality. Mhm.
All right.
Another question?
Last question for the evening is from Spiderbite. Doctor, please explain to me what goes on with the clouds. With the clouds, excuse me. They definitely make faces and sometimes deliberately look at me. I am sure they do. I am not mad.
Yeah, I know. I'm still looking for that dragon that chased me around when I was a kid. He's up there somewhere. Clouds are, you can manipulate them, my friend. If you look at them long enough, they'll move. If you look at them, stare at them, you'll poke holes in the clouds. And if you get the little ones, they'll shrink right down to nothing. Your eyes
Mm.
have power. So what's wrong with the clouds or what's up with the clouds? Well, they're teeny tiny bits of vapor. They're so light, you can move them with your mind. I know people are saying, yeah, sure, Douglas, try it.
Mm. Yeah, I've
Try
tried
it.
it. It does work. Yeah.
When you see the little ones, the big one and then the little one, pick on the little one, stare at it, and things will happen. I'm not going to tell you what. And then the cloud will just go like, and the big cloud won't move. But you got to stare at the little one. So your imagination is what's going on with the clouds. It's like tarot card reading. People put the cards down on the table. Long, long, long time ago, I was fascinated with these readers who could put cards down on the table and then tell me things, give me answers. And I knew that had nothing to do with the cards. They were getting something else. What they were doing was focusing on the cards, what gave their intellectual mind something to do, while
Uh,
their intuitive mind rather, was forming and showing them a picture. That people tell me, like, yes, you're going to buy a white car. The cards told you that? Oh yeah, yeah. The hangman versus the this and that, and I go, okay. And then no, they didn't. They saw a white car in their mind, but they were locked onto the cards or onto the image of the cards. Now, a way to start your intuition is to look at a candle burning, stare at it. It's mesmerizing, and then the pictures will start to develop in your mind. It's the same as when you're looking at clouds. You're relaxing, your mind's wandering, you're looking at this movement, you're focusing on this fluidity, and all of a sudden you're seeing images. That's not what's in the clouds, it's what's in your mind.
ah,
And a test of that, Les, is close your eyes and what happens? Where do the clouds go?
mm,
They're still there. But in your mind, they're gone. So it's a way to develop your mind staring at clouds. But I can still remember some of those amazing things I've seen. I've seen apparitions. I saw Mother Mary in the clouds one day, really. And I've seen the clouds are like this, like slow moving movie, but it's peaceful. Until some god awful jet comes by and it gets rid of the cloud, and then, oh, there it goes.
yeah, yeah,
Busted
true.
up
Yeah.
my movie again, down in airplanes. But anyway, all kidding aside, it's a talent. It's one of the skills. But what you're doing, you're laying on the ground. You're grounding your whole body on the ground. You're relaxing. Your circulation is slowing down because your heart doesn't have to pump blood up. It pumps it horizontally. You are entering into an alpha state of mind, maybe even a deeper state. And then your mind can do things. It's like Nostradamus looked into a bowl of water and he could see things. Well, it wasn't a bowl of water, it was what he was seeing in his mind, but he was getting into that altered state of consciousness by looking at the water.
Hmm.
Maybe there was some glass of wine beside the water before he started. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah. As a follow-up, Spiderbite says, a friend and I watched a cloud float by and it looked like a wolf. We both saw it turn and look at us. We both jumped back. How would you explain that, Doug? Were they manipulating the cloud, do you believe?
I would say the cloud had a shape that looked like a dog or a wolf, and then they both recognized it, but telepathically they were linked up.
Oh, interesting.
So
Very interesting.
one might have
Wow.
been seeing it, and the other, getting it from you know what telepathic, link up by sort of a binary mind. And then when one
Mm.
got afraid, the other got afraid. But I think that was more telepathic. It had nothing to do with the clouds.
Oh, okay, cool. Interesting.
Got to watch out for those clouds, though. They sneak up on you in slow
Well,
motion.
according to ufologists, some of them are UFOs in disguise. They can easily cloud over and disperse.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I've had a dream where those big Stargate looks like like a cigar smoke ring. It's like somebody. And for those who don't know, who don't remember smoking, you take a puff of smoke and you go, and you have
ah,
a perfect ring of smoke. And I
ooh.
saw that, and out of it, I saw some devices floating through.
Oh boy. Well, on our next show coming up, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Lemuria. Everybody seems to be concentrating upon Atlantis. There's so many books written about Atlantis, but we don't know much about Lemuria, or as Doug says, the Isle of Mu or Og. So that'll be coming up on our next program. Anything to say as we wrap it up, Doug?
Well, listen, everybody. Les is forecasting that we're at the end of this retrograde time. Full moon just is out there or just waning. We're coming to an expectation of prosperity. My heart goes out to all those people who are living in fear now because of the people wearing masks and on the streets. I want you to know that God's watching as well. There's every possibility of divine intervention. Remember, cause and effect. There is people causing a lot of pain, and unfortunately, they're causing pain for themselves. They just don't know it yet. I mean, there's one way of doing a job and doing it in a humane way, and there's another way, which seems to be a brutish way. That's just it just is counterproductive. The whole country is set up with the Statue of Liberty. Always remember that. The Statue of Liberty represents America. And as such, as we go through this time of extremes, things are going to get better, but it'll be 2028. Things will start to turn around for us. I'm not talking about elections. This is the whole world. And by 30 or to 33, we'll be back on track. So we can expect more shortages, more extremes, more and sudden things in the world that are unexpected. But Les, when we go through this time, we're living in a daily extreme all the time. Every day there is some news that's so extreme that we're becoming callous about it.
Yeah.
And we're forgetting the story yesterday and we're looking for the story tomorrow. And if I can say anything, if the show can be meaningful to you, my friends, is don't allow yourself to be triggered emotionally. Don't allow yourself to be triggered into anger. It's a useless emotion, and it's you being triggered. This is the key. If you can avoid being triggered into any kind of emotional response, you're on your way to greatness, self-control, introspection, illumination, awareness, and then to self-realization. Listen, Les and I have had a fun time here. In the background is our good friend Jack Bellick, who is the producer of the show. I'm your host, Dr. Douglas James Cottrell, and my friend and co-host is Les Hubert, and we're here to help you see the stars on the Soul Report Live. See you next week.
Are you searching for clarity, guidance, and peace of mind? For nearly 50 years, Douglas James Cottrell has used his intuitive abilities to help people from all walks of life overcome challenges and make informed choices. During his clairvoyant consultations, Douglas helps you uncover the root causes of life's challenges, whether in relationships, health, or finances. He offers insights into your future and practical guidance to empower your decisions today. Available by phone, Skype, Zoom, or FaceTime, Douglas's consultations fit your schedule and lifestyle. Heal, evolve, be the person you were born to be. Book your clairvoyant consultation today with Dr. Douglas James Cottrell.